Hello, hello, everyone. It is Kenyon here, Basketball Rewind. We're joined by JD. Of course, there is Coach. There is Beyond the Locker Room. We're all here. It's, that time of year where we aren't quite at the draft, but we're almost at the draft. And if your team is out, then I guess you're at the right place because, there's nothing else, to look forward to except for, the hope. The hope that maybe your team this year will be the lucky one to, draft Bruno Caboclo or maybe, the next whatever it may be. So, with that being said, we're going to talk about a couple different we're going to talk about a couple different prospects. Got to go from there. We have all characterized the draft. I've been nice enough to say that it's flat. Some people don't like weak. In the comments, you can argue amongst yourselves about that kind of nonsense. So, JD, first of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Busy writing. I got a few things coming up for Raptors HQ. So, we're all covering the draft right now. So, good times.
I did see your Zach Edey article, so I'll probably put a link down below. We'll be covering Edey at some point leading into this draft. I'm sorry, people. I really don't want Zach Edey on this team. But I'll just say that we don't have to. I mean, we could talk about Zach Edey today too. But before we do that, Beyond it, Coach, how are you guys?
Woo, boy, I tell you,
You
man.
excited?
I told you offline, man. You're really making me force me to muster up. I got right now Thursday. I'm waiting for Thursday, and now you make me force me to take this medicine. I feel like I'm drinking Buckley's right now here with some of this stuff here.
Hey man, you saved the best for last, and that's going to be real basketball. So
23 days to go
yeah.
as of this recording.
Yeah, this is like my friend where I remember one time we were both on an internship, and I started half a week late because I had to come from BC. And of course he lived out in the GTA, and I met him on the subway after work, and he said, "Day 4."
But
That bad? He said, "Yeah." We're gonna get through this, and he did get through this. So yeah, shout out to Truzar if you ever listened. Um, so with there's no order to this podcast. Let's actually, we brought up Zach Edey. You did an article on Zach Edey. Your thoughts on Zach Edey at number 19 for the Raptors, or just in general at that point.
I mean, well, he's made a lot of strides, right?
Hmm.
It's just that given the direction of our team right now, I'm thinking that we're probably gonna have Darko for next year and maybe more than that. So I'm just not sure if he's the center that we need for this system. And I have like
Maybe the
other
system
players
needs revising.
or that too, right? It's just that I think at 19th, I have other players that I'd probably rather take a chance on.
Yeah.
let me can I ask you a question, JD? Like, is there any chance that E can slip to the second round? Like, I don't think so, right? He is a first round pick this time.
I mean, to be honest, like I'm actually thinking, like, what if he's on there at 31st, right? Like
Mm.
he might be a value pick there. Like he's somebody that you can stash for a few years and like hopefully he develops. But
You already stashed him for a few years. He might be 30 by then. How many years are you going to stash him? Like, he's already 22, 23 already.
It's gonna be like the guy. What is it? Drew something
Oh,
from.
Drew Timmy in this
Yeah,
case.
Drew Timmy coming out with
Drew
a
Timmy,
staff
yeah.
like his
I see you,
Gandalf.
Gonzaga fans. I see you. That quality, that
I'm
quality
not
Timmy.
sure. Did he get his master's while he was in school? At this point, So,
Working
but
on
yeah,
his PhD now.
yeah, exactly. Hey man, that NIL, it's already paid for and funded, so it's cheap on the
Man.
Right.
school. Yeah, I mean, I'll give my thoughts on Edey really quickly. Is obviously he's a very accomplished player from that level, but you're playing against guys that frankly aren't. It's not a man's league, and it's going to look very different in a man's league. So he might be the biggest dude there. I mean, he's going to be the biggest dude in the NBA, frankly, in terms of just pure height. but there's also a speed factor, and I get concerned. In terms of on offense, I do worry about his ability to kind of keep up at a certain level and be productive unless you're shifting your offense towards him. I don't know if he can do the post hub action from like a Raptor standpoint that you necessitate having out of Pirtle or that you would want out of Scotty Barnes. So from that standpoint, it's he might be available, but it's a no for me.
Could you imagine?
Well, Edey had a good combine. That's what's helping
He
his
did.
stock right now too. He
He
did
was
the lane
faster
agility,
than
the
Grady.
SAR, and the lane agility.
Yep.
It was
I'm just
better than
like,
Grady.
ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's helping his stock at 19. Very risky for it. It's just he's just going to be a risky player for any team. But like JD said, if he fell to the second round, that could be big value there because you kind of know what he's going to do a little bit in terms of points and rebounds. But this comes back to the question Kenny Smith said about a month ago: Can you play traditional basketball 6 minutes a half with him? I, who knows?
Perhaps one thing that I don't think I wrote about this, but like one concern I have with Edey is like how is he going to handle his developmental or like his development at the at the NBA level because it's going to be tough for him to play right away like with the main club and the G League it's a faster paced league like it's a guards league so like you see Taco Fall like all these like tall guys like they barely get the ball like at the G League so I'm not sure how he's going to be able to bridge that development to be like a rotational NBA player.
And also, there's guys that are trying to eat. It's a little
Yep.
bit different than in college where this is the system that you play. Um, the system will not be built around his strengths. So in a G League context, and also like at 19, frankly, you could even argue. Well, at 31, it's a different conversation, just in terms of who we draft at that point. But ideally, you want both guys playing minutes with the big club, at least at some point throughout this season, based on our current roster. I mean, I know there are Noir lovers and stuff like that, but I mean, we got to be serious here.
Mhm.
He will set good screens. I can almost guarantee at the next level. When you're 7'5" and 200 and 300 pounds, it's going to be like running into a wall.
Absolutely. So just moving along really quickly, we'll just talk about Collier really quickly. So Isaiah Collier, USC, Bronny James's teammate, of course. I think he'll be known for more than that at this level.
And my
Um,
Filipino guy, Boogie. Don't forget about Boogie.
True, true, true. But yeah, so he's a very interesting guard because while he's 6'2" without shoes, he's probably closer to 6'3", 6'4" as a point guard. I kind of say he's more of like a scoring first point guard. His game is somewhat resembling to a bit of IQ mixed with a little bit of, I would say, I know you're going to hear this a lot today, but a little bit of Jalen Suggs just in terms of offensively, how he kind of goes through guys like almost like a football player, similar to Jalen. And there's something about his game where I think it will translate to the NBA. Now, is he the right guard at 19? He might be the best quote unquote talent on the board at the time, but I don't know if he's the right fit. I want your guys' thoughts. I'll actually start with Coach first.
Number one ESPN Top 100 high school player last year in 2023. I always think that's something for a player when you've been giving that distinction. Um, Clearly, Collier he's got talent. He's got good size for the point guard position. Put up pretty good numbers at USC, and quite frankly, that team was pretty bad. And I'm not saying that was like his fault or anything like that, but sometimes in college you can play on some bad teams, and then you can do much better in the NBA. I think his game's going to translate to the NBA fairly well. I mean, shot almost 50% from the field for a guard. That's really good.
Hmm.
You're looking at 16 points, 4.5 assists, usage rate of 30%, really high. I kind of wonder if that's a guard that this organization might not go for, considering how much they love to move the ball and play Darko ball. We don't like to have a ball dominant guard in this system. So it's going to be interesting to see if that's something they will want to do. The way that he plays, I don't see it, but the talent, there's upside there with the talent.
Yeah, Beyond.
This is for us at 19, huh?
Yeah.
I this franchise I just don't get, man. I really don't. When Masai had the presser, and this is the at the end of the year presser, and he talked about the things we needed. I was surprised he mentioned point guard. That surprised me. I'm sitting there going like, of all the things that we need, I can think about 3 or 4 things before I actually check point guard off the list.
Was Zach LaVine one of them? I'm just kidding.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the joke. Not necessarily Zach LaVine, but a guy could get his own shot. Would be nice to get this team.
It would be nice.
I know a wing defender. That would be nice. We discussed the center situation. That would be nice.
Yeah.
But point guard, I'm like, okay. I mean, that's like something I'm looking for in the back of the cupboard. Oh yeah, one of them. Let me get a jar of that. Like, why all of a sudden we talk about point guards?
Yeah.
I thought you signed a guy for $160 million. I thought that was supposed to be the answer. You told us all over open gym. Can't wait for you and Sky to play together. Well, then what the hell are you going to draft yourself a 21 or a 20-year-old? Like, you're just trying to complicate a situation. So that's my first thing. Nothing to do with the young man's game. Just saying from a pure organization standpoint, I don't get it. Now, let me get to Mr. Collier. He's a new school type of point guard, what we call a point guard nowadays, which is pretty much I shoot first, and if I have an option to pass, I will do so if I can get my shot off. That's how I see him. And that's no respect to him. That's how all of them play nowadays. All right. The days of Chris Paul or John Stockton, they're like dinosaurs walking down Young Street. You ain't seeing them. So if that's the case now, I'll look at that. Going back to my point mentioned in my first point, how would he fit on this roster? When Grady has to get looks, you're coming out on this team now. Whoever's going to be part of this second unit in this case is going to get looks. If Mr. Trent is back, for example.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially if you have Trent there, it's like,
and then you're going to put Collier in that mix.
A hungry man is an angry man.
Right. If I see somebody have two or more passes with that unit, I'll be shocked. Okay, like these things don't make sense while watching this team. Like it's like so Collier himself. What I like about him though, I don't see quickly whatsoever with him. I see more like on offense. I see more of a more physical guard, like someone like Drew Holiday.
Yeah,
but just more athletic, and a little more capable of fitting. Like he punishes you when he gets in there.
He does play with force.
He's got a good frame. He's explosive at times. I like how he plays in that sense. So don't get me wrong. I like him as a player, I think, for the right team, not just for this particular team, but for the right team, I can see him doing some damage. And I like the way he attacks. Now, the shooting, I'm not as concerned about other folks. The shooting's decent enough. It'll come around. And he's shooting around like 34, 33% from three. That to me, that's like a good flat level come as a college player. I always say that if you're a half decent shooter like that, you probably will get 4 points more once you start focusing only on basketball in professional level. You could probably get yourself to about 37, maybe 38%, if you're that type of shooter. So I'm not concerned about that. I think he's got the raw talent and skills that he can improve on that. Defensively, hard to say because that team was a bit of a hot mess. But I don't know really, but he's got the build that you think he could be a better defender than maybe what he already is. But my biggest issue with him is that he's not a natural passer. And if supposedly the great Darko offense, you must be able to move and pass, make quick decisions. That's not really Collier's strength. He's a prober.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but overall, good luck to whoever drafts him. I got no issue with the kid, but I just don't see him for the Raptors. I just the whole concept of the point guard to me, I just don't get. But that's just me.
JD, your thoughts on Mr. Collier?
Yeah, so Like I actually saw a lot of his games because I'm watching my guy Boogie a lot. So uh I thought that he was underutilized there. Like it's just like a not a good fit, and the coaching is a little bit all over the place, right?
You know, say
And also the
you know
circus
like
aspect of it as well.
yeah, you know like Bronny is a wing. Come on now.
Yeah, but I think like I'll put a different spin to it because like I agree with what you guys have said, but at the same time, right? If we draft this kid in a year or two, like this guy's gonna be better than who's our eight guy right now? Jalen McDaniels?
Well, he was 8 by the time the year was done. I get.
No, like right now, like next
Yeah,
next
yeah,
season, right?
yeah. I'm just thinking. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess so.
Like
Boucher?
I'm just like like
It might be Bruce Brown at this point.
if Bruce Brown's not coming back, if GTJ is not coming back, right? Like
He's
it
gone.
starts to
Yeah,
look sad, right?
yeah.
So
That's
like
what,
Yeah.
I'm just in a way I'm just happy that we're adding talent to to our bench, right?
Yep.
To our
Yeah.
roster. And also at the same time, like at this range, he's one of those guys that can potentially push our core guys. Like, because he's got the alpha mentality, I think. He's one of those guys that can put up a fight. Because if our guys are kind of like being lazy and this guy figures it out, like, gotta watch out for this kid.
Yeah. Beyond, you were gonna chime in here.
I like JD's point for other roles on the team.
Yeah.
I see the point guard kind of like how you see a quarterback in football. There's the one position team you don't want to be messing around with the person's head too much with. And like how you want when you're starting quarterback, you don't want to be messing around with his head with a backup that's pretty damn good. And he's over there looking over his shoulder. Same thing with a point guard as your starting point guard. And I think if you start bringing a guy like that, and you just sign quickly for X amount of millions of dollars, who you say you're going to be the dude coming here from New York where you were sitting on the pine, you can't get opportunity, and now all of a sudden, the moment you get a chance, all of a sudden it's like, wait, you just draft a point guard, a 20-year-old point guard? Wait, what's
Okay,
going on?
but let me ask you a question though. Not this year, but say it's next year, and Dylan Harper's on the board. Am I gonna say no?
But that's a different thing, right? Because
Okay.
no, here's why it's different.
I mean,
Here's
you're right, because it's it's a 19th overall versus like a
Right.
dude that's like,
So
well, I
why-
mean, he's the
right.
dude. Sorry,
That's my point.
it's not my fault that you're not
Right.
good enough.
Why put yourself in that position to create that type of tension? Now, I know Missi likes to do this art of war type of stuff.
Yeah,
Where he has to have them out there, with like bantu sticks.
like dogs with you toss the meat and they're both
Right,
hungry.
It's like the Joker part in Dark Knight when he throws out the Michael Jai White and the gangsters.
Yeah,
Like, which one you all want to be part of my team? The other one's gonna be gone. Okay, he has that type of mentality. So he's that crazy. He would do that. But you do that with a 19th pick. That's my point. When it's Dylan Harper, if that's the case, that is a clear direction of where we're going. Then the trade talks can begin. But when you do that, the 19th pick, why are we creating this type of this type of commotion? That's what I'm saying.
But I could say the opposite to that, though. The 19th pick, you're not coming in to start. I think you're trying, if you were looking for a guard in this draft, where Toronto is, and you're going to like this, who's your Case and Wallace in this draft? I'm not saying it's Collier. I'm just saying, do you look for someone who might be on the board with a guy who come in off the bench and you have no worries about him playing and you have him he's on his rookie contract at 19. It's going to be cheap versus signing a free agent that might be more expensive. It's hard. I get what you're saying too, but I think there's an argument for if you pick him at 19, whoever that is, like, okay, here's the pecking order. You're going to be coming in off the bench, not to mess with Quickly's minutes.
Yeah, you know my theory, man. If personalities dictate a lot of stuff, and
That's a good point.
When you got alpha mentality, that dude ain't sitting around here looking to just eat minnows. He looking for real meat, okay?
Yeah. But to Kenyon's point about Dylan Harper, that's different because that could be fourth overall.
Right, exactly. Now we have a pecking order that changes immediately. But when you have a 19th guy, it's like the classic example of saying football. When you have no quarterback, so you have two quarterbacks, you actually have no quarterback. You don't want a situation where you have I think this guy could be a backup point. It's like a Raptor tradition, right? Literally, Calderon, TJ4. How many times we got to go through this story?
Well, it's funny because in a way, in a different way,
Lowry
Atlanta,
Calderon.
Atlanta and Jared Jack as well.
Right.
The Atlanta fans are kind of going through a version of this themselves, where they're like, basically, they're talking about Sar like on the bench, and I'm like, what are we doing?
I thought you were going the other Atlanta possibly, right? You literally have
Zachary Richeche?
No, you have the Fuel Award going on where you have the Trae Young camp and the Dejounte Murray camp.
Oh, that too.
Fields and McCoy's out there. You don't want that.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, this should be his team, and the other guy should get traded. I mean, we already saw. I've never seen this before. You tell me if y'all ever seen this. I never see a franchise have rumors of both guards potentially getting traded in a 2-week span. I've seen one.
I mean, I'm kind of curious. I know this is off topic, but I'm kind of curious. I didn't expect to talk about this subject, but how does that factor in with Scotty?
Well, there's a whole other.
Right. Next week on basketball. No.
Right. Now, yeah, because
he's another guy where it's like we're talking about point guard duties. Is it like Oprah? Everyone gets the point guard duty?
No, and that way, I'll tell you this right now, based on how Collier plays, and you're playing Scotty with that second unit, Scotty's not the point guard of that second unit anymore. I'll tell you that right now, folks. No. Collier's not that playing off the ball. I'm sorry.
No. Did you imagine if we got Castle? Nah, he's like, I've come here with a mission, sir.
My mission's to have Quickly off his team.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, fair enough. We've talked about, two guys so far. I think we might as well stick with the point guards just for now, really quickly. We'll talk about two in two different ways. Devin Carter and Topic. Let's just cover Topic really quickly because I think it's going to be a shorter conversation because we'd have to essentially, if he falls to 19, then there's a problem. Like there's I don't know if he's going to come up in like a Paul Pierce wheelchair or something on draft night.
Last year we had the same situation where we kept putting Cam Whitmore off, and then lo and behold, what happened?
I'm sad about that. I wanted to cover Cam Whitmore last year. Yeah. I thought he was,
and then he dropped to like 17 or so, whatever the case. And now we're seeing a very similar situation. It might play out this way. I'm not saying it will, but
I think he drops, but I don't know if he drops to 19. But you never know in this draft. You never know. Yeah. But Topic is interesting. So let's presume that we'd have to move up to, say, at least to the 12th position-ish. What are your guys' thoughts? I have thoughts on him, but I'll start with JD on this one.
Well, when we were before we conveyed our pick, like I was actually, like I was actually like focusing on him. Like I was like, I think he's our guy if we're at the sixth pick, like if he's available. He's one of the guys on this draft where he's got good size enough where he can play either guard positions and also be like a glue guy, like somebody that would adjust to like whatever five-man lineup that you have, and still be able to be, and still be a scoring threat, right? And like looking at the rest of the point guards in this draft, right? Like I don't see that many players that can replicate that. And I'm just much higher. Like I'm also like I think like his processing is much better than a lot of the players in this draft. And I don't know, like I'm just really high on this kid.
Yeah, I mean, I have thoughts. I'm gonna wait till the end, but I have thoughts. But Beyond might feel the exact opposite of you, so I'll let him go next.
Let me tell you something. If he dropped to 19, I would be open to take him at 19. Now, going back to what I said before in my previous conference, make sure that I am consistent with my takes, right? I said I want a guard in this case that would be likely more pass first, likelier. Topic should be more likely like that. Topic in this case, to JD's point, could play some other positions, so he's not primarily has to be on the ball. So I'm being consistent with that in this case here. And let's face it, we know he'd be like, he'd be like a dark or wet dream in this case here if he played him in this case. Let's go for what it is. All right. So for those three things, check. From that standpoint, at 19, Now, my point was when we had these discussions beforehand, I wouldn't want him in the top 10 if we were going to have a top 5 pick. Because there's other guys I like out there that had more high level ceiling potential in my mind than him. And I was already concerned about the injuries the first time around. And when he got the first injury, I was like, whoa, well, that injury seems interesting. And that was before we got the second. We got the third now. There's a third injury. I lost track now. You got the 2 or 3.
It's more than one. We'll say that.
So when your boy said, I was putting up the figure, like, I ain't sure about this. And like, this is already getting a little concerning. And as I said before, I lost track of how many injuries at this point. So yeah, I didn't like him up there at top 5 or 6 because I thought other guys would be more bang for my buck up there. But at 19, if you have to fall, hell yeah, I would take him in this case because I think, to your point, all the things you talk about, including the Scotty element, if you want to, he fits much more naturally into what this team.
Yeah, because he moves the ball along and stuff like that. He could fit into even though it's not the perfect stat, a lower usage role. Coach,
your point beyond that you said earlier about the Dylan Harper and Collier, this might come true. We take Topic at 19. Because Topic in this draft, if he's not hurt, he's going top 5. I would say he would be anyway. And then you might have a bit of a little point guard controversy the next year or two with him quickly.
Warm my heart, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, he's the opposite in that sense, where he's about 6'8". I saw him standing next to Jovic in Miami, and they were almost eye level, and Jovic is like 6'10". So I'm saying he's about 6'8" point guard. To me, he reminds me, and beyond, you'll like this. He reminds me of Jason Kidd. He knows how to run a team. He's not a great athlete. I think he's a good enough athlete. Attacks the rim very well. People worry about the form. I saw his shot form, looks fine. Just needs a bit of work. But what is he? How old is he? He's 18.
Yep.
He's not even 19 years old yet, and he's like 6'7" point guard, and he runs an offense very well. He's very good in the pick and roll. I think he finished over 70% at the rim. So if he falls to 19, like you guys said, you probably got to take him because that could be an OG scenario all over again. OG was supposed to go top 10 in his draft, and he fell to 21 or 2 at the time. So
yeah, well, the challenge is he going to have the problems that OG had in terms of staying on the court?
Injuries early, they kind of happen throughout your career. But I will say this: I think his upside is higher than OG's.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, you can dribble a ball, but I mean, that's the one thing that people tend to say about OG is like, oh, like he could, and it's like, okay, even if he is that good, is he going to be on the court long enough to see it? I mean, if you compare OG to basically his closest counterpart is probably Jeremy Grant in a lot of different ways. And Jeremy Grant is just as injury prone, if not worse, but he's a much better offensive player, but lower on defense. But they're both similar in that sense. It's like there's just, there's limitations. And the more that he's going to have on offense, it's going to take away from his defense. So, but I know, the other thing is that people like to talk about contract stuff and player valuation, but they forget about, okay, if you're going to sell merchandise or you're going to sell that, OG Anunoby, maybe there. Like if you're selling a game, you may not want the dude that's doing the Houdini disappearing act.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and that's no shade to him. That's his body.
No, that's his body. I mean, like his playoff run was pretty much his entire career summed up in 1 month.
Yeah.
That's classic OG. One great playoff performance. Everyone thinks like, oh, here's the moment. And then boom, injury out for about 3 weeks, comes back, and that's literally the whole shebang. As far as Topic goes, you know me, Coach. I like a big guard, so that's my principle. I don't want no small guards to build around. I like a big guard, so I'm fine taking him if he drops that far. Yeah, I would say that you got to take him.
I like contrasting differences too amongst guards. Quickly has his skill set, Topic has his skill set, and they're different. And sometimes when you have duplicates, and we know this from the redundancy of Vision 6'9", everybody had the same skill set. Look how far that got us. Go back to the time when we were, competing for a championship and we had balance on the team. I think that's key. You would definitely have balance between Quickly and Topic.
Yes. Yeah. He's the one guy that I've always felt like it could work. And, you could be patient with the shot if the shot isn't working or not. I'm not really worried about the shot for this, even if spacing's cramped. I mean, we have our
Well,
pick. I'll just leave it at that.
well, the coach's point in this case, the comp that he gave in this case here, he
Yep.
should tease that and call him Eason kid, right?
Yep.
Right. And then he ended up being like a 40% 3-point shooter by the time his career was done.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm it's just one thing that I'm not worried about. I think he has distinct advantages, but the other thing is he actually, when I say point guard skills, is like he actually legit played point guard in a professional league. He didn't LARP, he was a legit point guard, has the ability to dribble, handle the ball under pressure, coming up the court, and he does a lot of those things, and he does them really well. And there's a reason why he's that high up. And if you get a chance, people, watch the tape. There's not a lot of tape because he keeps getting injured, but but watch the tape and stuff like that and see what you think.
That's a bad thing.
Hey man, that's it. Sometimes that's the only way that you get a guy there. And to be fair, we do have a solid medical staff. I would say so. Al McKechnie is still here. I don't know what they're feeding the guys these days, but overall, I mean, usually we're fairly healthy. So yeah, what I will say then from there is, there's just a couple other players that we could talk about. So we could talk about Devin Carter, we could talk about Missi, and we could talk about touch on Ware. Don't worry, Mouth of the North. We're gonna do a more deeper dive on Ware in the future. So it makes sense to just quickly touch on Devin Carter. I mean, how do I start this? He's certainly not 6'8". He's 6'2". I'm not sure if that's with or without shoes, but he's 6'2". It's very different.
Where's the 8 stuff come from?
Topic.
That's his wingspan.
Topic.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm saying we went tall, now we're going small.
Right.
I'm not going to keep rhyming because then it's going to become a Seuss book. But what I will say with this is that he, for his size, plays very, very well on defense. So that's actually where I'm going to start. There's some that think that he has all defense potential. I really there's a lot of things to like about his play. There's other guys whose names have come up, like Bub Carlington. And I think in terms of the way that this guy plays on both ends, I think he's more of a potential two-way player than some other guys in this draft, even with being a shorter guard. He's certainly taller than Jose Alvarado. That's for sure. I think he's a decent passer. I think he can kind of produce his own offense. He definitely plays defense. He definitely has really good footwork. If you're, I don't know if it's he's not really a back to the basket type point guard, but he just overall has a complete game. Coach, I'm going to start with, I don't know if I should start with you, but I'm going to start with you either way.
Well, like you said, he's probably he might be the best point of attack defender in this draft. And I'm just looking at the numbers with him and Castle. Higher defensive win shares than Castle. It's not that close. Higher win shares than Castle. Higher defensive rating than Castle. Like, I think there's a theme here where he can really play defense. And the old man wasn't a bad basketball player in the NBA, Anthony Carter. He was all right. He was serviceable. I think it's the word that I could use, especially when he was younger. But Devin Carter was one of the standouts of the combine as well. I think he had the highest vertical, if I remember correctly. Was it the highest max vertical, 42 inches? So he's a big time athlete.
And he does have a 6'8" wingspan, by the way, too. So
it's basically 6'9", want to round up because like 6'8.75. So I'll give him the other quarter inch. But he's intriguing as well. He kind of does present a little different game than Quickly. Now they're both the same size, but they play a little bit different, and I don't mind that as well. If you were to select him at 19, he might be there for sure. But I think the combine numbers have really helped him out where I think he can go top 15, maybe top 16 in the draft.
Yeah. And, just for people's reference, because people seem to obsess over this, he's basically 47% from the field, 30, almost, we'll round up 38% from deep, so he can shoot for sure. And, he can hit above 75% from the line. So maybe he's not a Raptor after all. But yeah,
Remember at Providence too, though, he was the player. He was everything. He might have been he could have been selling hot dogs and hamburgers there too. He was everything
yes.
at Providence. That was their guy.
Yes, and almost a 4 to 3, 4 to 2.7 ratio in terms of assisted turnover. So I think he can kind of take care of the ball, and I think he could play an off ball guard role if needed. But I think on a second unit, he provides things that you currently don't have. JD.
Yeah, actually kind of cheating here because I have my Devin Carter piece coming out in a day or two right in front of me. So
Hey,
It'll be listed down below for people.
yeah. What do you call it? Yeah, so I'm just gonna throw some numbers here so you guys have like a better visuals of this guy, right? So he's he's like 6'2", like 6'2", 25, like without shoes, and 6'8", 75 wingspan, right? So similar comp there, Cason Wallace, JFL, Freeman Liberty, right? Melton, right? Uh, and in a way, like Bruce Brown is taller, but I think his game at the NBA level would probably translate to somebody like Bruce Brown, where he's a guard, but he's not really playing like a guard. He's just doing a lot of like intangible stuff on the floor, on the court, right? Whether it's on the offense or on the defense, right? He's one of those guys that you want on your team, especially if you're in the playoffs, that would make winning plays, right? You need players like that. You need mood setters, like you need energy guys, right? Um, I don't know, like after watching that season that we just had, like there was a bitter taste in my mouth. Like I'm looking for a guy that would kind of like help the team, like inject some energy, some hustle, some
You want
effort.
some dogs? That's what you want.
Are you saying that the
Yeah,
vibes weren't good enough for you?
right. So like I'm looking for that kind of guy, and at the same time, like at the 19th pick, right? There is an argument to take a prospect that has like a like unknown potential. Like you're taking like I'm not saying we're taking like a Poku kind of guy, right? But
Sorry.
it's high time for us to just take a single for now, right? Get a good player, right? And just roll it over for next year. Like let's just keep, like taking talent in here, right? Because
Yeah.
like I don't know, like it's just that for the past few years we've been working with projects, right? That's how I see it.
I mean, Bobby said it himself, right? And he used Grady's development throughout the season as an example of this. He said, we need to hit singles for the next 10 moves, not a big swing,
Yeah. And
right?
and I'm a 905 guy. As much as I'd love to see them play at the 905, I don't want to see our 19th pick there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he saw the 13th pick this year.
I didn't like I was totally against seeing Grady Dick there, and like that experience was not good.
No, no. And just so people understand, it's the environment of the overall G League team. I mean, you ideally you want when a team stocks up its cupboard with pipelines, because that is their pipeline. They win more, and you're building a winning context, which is always better to develop guys in terms of developing habits and otherwise. OKC, if I'm not mistaken, they won the G League championship this year. In our heyday, we were winning G League championships, are always in the conversation. We didn't even make the playoffs. We had to basically get a brand new team midway through the season. So
Mhm.
I think it's going to take time to fill that. But like to your point, that probably isn't going to come from a 19th overall pick. I mean, I know. No, wait. I think G League's season starts after. So you know, I guess if Devin Carter is there for an extended period of time on a you know, a home trip, you know, fine, set him down, get an extra, you know, cardio run, cool. But in terms of his mainstay, there's no reason why Darko shouldn't be playing the 19th overall pick. Is my thoughts. Yeah, I mean, and I also said, you know, mini Jalen Suggs before, so you know, I'm gonna stick with that a little bit. I do think actually, in terms of his overall offensive game, he has a different game than Jalen Suggs. I think his shot will not be as streaky as Jalen Suggs, and I think he has better. Jalen Suggs would typically only drive to one side. I think he's better at going to both hands this early on in his. Oh, I shouldn't say this early on because Jalen Suggs was the one and done, and this guy is not. But the other thing too is you have an older player, and sometimes that's good for from a maturity standpoint. I wouldn't mind one of these picks being a more mature pick to take. So yeah, I think we've kind of covered all the guards. Two
No, I
big
think we
men.
get Beyond though. Beyond, you say
Oh.
your piece with Devin Carter?
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, I took a quick peek at him, but I said before, I just to be quite fair to the listeners, I haven't done a lot of research on him, but like, you know, from what I see with Devin Carter, he's the classic rotational player, and I guess comping him to some of the other guards we've spoken about, like I will feel comfortable if they picked him, and he's like just a classic guard coming off the bench, and he's a two-way guy, which the Raptors could use a lot of them. We don't have any two-way players.
I actually wrote here in my piece that he's the anti-Gary Trent Jr.
Right? So I'm going to say something here, which I wouldn't be surprised. I know the Sixers and the Lakers are just ahead of us, but I honestly feel that either him or De Silva would be a Miami Heat. And it's quite possible whichever one's not in the Miami Heat, the other one may drop to us. That's my feeling. I don't know, because I feel LA and Philadelphia, I don't think are looking to pick young guys that kind of be in their rotation at this point in their stage. They're looking to get guys. They're looking to store guys, as you said before. If they even pick a guy, they'll probably pick someone raw and stick them down in the G League because they're looking to get guys to win right now. To keep that roster space open for that.
I think people's read on the situation with Miami is off as well, because people seem to think that they're like, just because Jimmy wants to get paid, that even if Jimmy goes, that like Pat Riley is not trying to win, and no, he is trying to win. Like they will find a way to eke out whatever they have to eke out to go at it one more year. Like that's that. A lot of these teams.
George, come on down.
Yes, exactly. There's a lot of these teams are not necessarily going, like I was talking to people about the Nets. They're like, oh, the Nets are just gonna like trade. They only have one trade partner. That's the Rockets. Other than that, they're just gonna be giving away the Rockets free picks. So that's your only, and they already said no to the Rockets. So they're not gonna go back with hand in hat or hat in hand saying, please, sir, may I? It's there. Yes, I heard Joe Tsai's thing, but they're also, you know, they're not trying to tank. They're not trying to tank.
We can come do another deal with Dallas if you want us to.
You mean Mikal Bridges?
I'm talking about how that Kyrie deal's looking worse and worse.
Oh, that too. Yeah. I think the Kyrie thing took everyone by surprise.
Yeah, but hey, he was in a tough spot, so you know that's what
he was put in a tough
ain't no one
spot.
did do any favors for him. So yeah, I mean, so good on Harrison and the Mavericks staff for that. But as far as like, I agree with JD, man. Look, man, just get a guy who can play, man. And I see a little bit of the kid. I'm fine with him. He can play offense and defense. He scored about 20 points a game for Providence, and he has like some ability to score at all three levels.
So not Salon.
Yeah.
I should actually. I'm curious. I'm curious of JD's thoughts on Salon. Actually,
don't you go there. You know what? You can test the waters when you talk about his man from Baylor. We get to him next.
Yeah, actually,
I like your comp though of Jalen Suggs with Devin Carter. Not many guards average a block a game. He did that this year. Not many guards and get you 9 rebounds a game. And he did that this year. He's got a motor. You have no issues with motor when it comes to Devin Carter. Like I think
Speaking my
probably
language, man.
being the son of an NBA player, there is an argument like you have an understanding of what is expected of you to play at this level. And he's got good talent, man. Like Beyond said, if he's on the board and we select him, I'm certainly not losing any sleep over it. I'm like, yeah, he looks like he can play right now. He easily becomes our best point of attack defenders. Not even close.
But Noir and everybody else we had is not sitting well with your coach.
Well, it's funny because even Quickly, who was supposed to be like
Wonderful deal.
a good point of attack defender, he came here and he was not. Now it could be partially the system. The defensive system, I'll say. But like
what
at
defensive system. Sorry, Gideon.
Well, hey, no, you're we gotta check the spreadsheet on that one. But I mean, hey, and listen, listeners, you can get at me all you want. I have to have some fun here, okay?
Right. You know what you were talking about, right? Like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, hey, none of y'all have ever countered the defense argument in terms of next year. So I'm still waiting. Who is defending on this team? But yeah, I mean, Quickly came and he wasn't supposed to be. He was supposed to be better defensively, and he didn't look that great defensively. And at times, I can't remember who said it. I'm not sure if it was JD that said it or maybe William Lou said it. I heard somewhere recently that it's like basically it quickly was hid on defense at times.
That's wild. That's troublesome.
That's not me, but I would say that like his defense this season as a Raptor was not that much better than Malachi Flynn's.
Boy.
Hey man, that 50 piece in Detroit, man.
but the JD, to your point, I said during the season, and you already know this already. All you guys know this. I'm no Pirtle fan. But I said even Pirtle, who I'm no fan of.
We're gonna get flack from someone.
No, I don't really care who I get flack from, man. Even they might like what I have to say. Even in this case, who's no Pirtle fan in this case here, to say, like, dude, I know Pirtle could play better defense than this. I watched it a year ago, right? You know, so you gotta start wondering a little bit and look a little bit upstairs, like, how is it everyone is? I said it one day on a space where I think it's on this show. I said, has anyone gotten better defensively on this team?
No.
Please.
Pirtle may have more fans than Caitlin Clark on this team. Like, holy smokes, man! Like the people come out the woodwork. Yeah, I mean, no, not really. I mean, Pirtle was more foul prone under this team, and scheme wise, after the first, I'd say 5 games, when we started actually not being able to hold teams to 100 points, and it was like 120. I mean, but I mean, it is what it is.
No one respects the coach. Just cut it what it is, okay? No one does.
Today, I'm going to be a good boy. I'm not touching that one.
I don't care,
what
man.
I will say is that read Eric Koreen's article. He did talk about how, sometimes the coach was at times mocked.
Man, you got to take his Buckley's, man. He don't want to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you, okay? Fact is, don't respect this coach, okay? Just look at the players that got traded. All of a sudden, they figure out how to play defense all of a sudden when they went other teams, okay? When you look at that, and then you see
it was all Darko showcasing them for
maybe I have a question for you.
Roles.
So until that gets figured out, this is the reason why I have no issue with the Carter kid, because he already knows to play defense up front.
Yeah, he's certainly not going to forget it.
Right. So and for that standpoint, and he has offense, because I don't want one-dimensional players either. So I'm not sure if you have time to get the JD's man at 31, because I would love to hear that.
But yeah. So JD had a question for you.
Well, not really a question, but a comment. I mean, like there should be like an exit interviews for players that got traded and waived like during the season, right?
That'd be neat, actually. I'd actually.
Because we only hear about the players that stay behind. Like they're coming back, or like more than likely they would be coming back, playing for this coach. So they're not gonna talk bad a lot, right?
All I know is that
what Pascal wants to say. I want to hear what OG wants to say.
I mean, like all I know is number one, we didn't hear much, in terms of end of season pressers from or exit interviews by Chris Boucher.
Okay, I was just about to mention him. I'm like, did I dream this? Did he not speak? And I'm pretty
he
sure he
did not
didn't.
speak. He
He took down the Pirtle one.
Pirtle did speak. I
Were you?
saw because I clicked on it and he was speaking, and then I was like, I'll just catch this later. It was never put up.
Hey, let me tell you something. For you Pearl fans out there, I got one for you in this case here. Your boy keeps it real. I
He does.
appreciate
Yes.
He really
Yeah.
does.
he's the guy who I want to find out.
His interviews are always the best
Yes.
because it's
And
just like straight to the point. Like,
no
I didn't
chaser.
come here to do this. I'm here to do that. And he's not mean about it. But he's
No.
just
Matter of fact. And he's the guy I listen to find out what to get away from all the BS that you hear on there. No respect this case here, this case, JD. I know you all do a fine job, but some of the rest of those guys in the media, they'd be out there carrying the water, man. Like pictures of it. You want to say nothing, JD? I just say it for me, okay?
so. Don't worry, folks. We're not an anti-media show either.
No, but sometimes you gotta say it what it is, man.
But yeah, sometimes the questions are a little soft hitting at times. Although lately they've been a little bit harder hitting. We'll say that. But back to
in a row, that would happen.
it's true. It's true. I mean, at some point, I mean, at some point it was thinking we were looking at a Wingstop, a Wingstop sponsorship. And they made their money and then some on that. They're like, our money's safe. Shout out to Wingstop. But anyways, feel free to sponsor the pod, of course. What I will say is this. We talked a lot about different guards and stuff like that. We just brought up Pirtle. We might as well talk about some big men here. So, Missi, you had some thoughts about Missi, JD, and we'll get into that because it sounds like you would take Missi over a couple other guys at 19 if all of them are there, if I'm not mistaken. Just to correct me if I'm wrong, you would take Missi over Collier Ware potentially, and
No, it's actually the other way around.
Oh, okay, I read that wrong. All right, continue on then. Let's talk about
No, but-
Missi either way.
Well, with Missi, right? He's one of
Good
those
to
guys.
know.
He's one of those guys where if we selected him, like 19, like I won't have any issues, right? I would rather take him than some of the other bigs like ahead of him, like ranked ahead of him, right? And it's just that I think like with his like with the physical tools that he's got right now and the potential upside, I think he might be able to do more than what like like the laziest comp for him right now is what Clint Capella, I think. I think he can do more than that. But at the same time, for him to be that much better, like he's gonna have to go through like I'm not saying a rapid, but like an extensive developmental stride over the next 3 to 4 years, right?
Does he have to be put on the Grady plan? Apparently.
I think he's strong enough to survive at least initially.
Okay.
I think he's got that going for him, right? But yeah, I mean, like I said, I would take Ware over him, but like he's an intriguing prospect. He's really light on his foot, and in a way, like he's kind of like a what do you call that? What's the term when I forgot the term when you say, oh yeah, poor man's like in a way he kind of like moves. I'm not saying he is, but in a way he kind of moves like a poor man's version of Evan Mobley, right? Just in the movement wise, like how light they are on their feet, like how they kind of like they're like just watching him play, like he's not a big slob basically, right? And
Right.
what do you call that? I just like him for this team, especially if we're thinking about what does this team look like over the next 6 to 8 years.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I look at it with Missi is I understand why there are some that really like him, and it's not because he's Cameroonian and just started playing basketball not that long ago. You know, I do think that there is
I'm
upside
trying to
there.
avoid that trope.
Yes, yes. There's a few people that have brought that on. I'm like, okay, we're not. First of all, this isn't like a make-a-wish for the Cameroonian people. Second of all, you know, if Masai is trying to make amends somehow, you know, that's not the way to make draft picks. But I mean, I think Missi's interesting because I think he has the potential to at least have a floor defensively that could keep him in your system and getting minutes. But he's a project, and I'm good on projects, especially at 19. At 31, you could talk me into a couple guys as projects, like Ulrich, for example. You know, but I still I'm leaning against projects. You know, I don't need. Well, this guy could be something in 4 years, and then by the time Scotty Barnes, you know, people are rearing to go for Scotty Barnes. Okay, why are we picking a guy who's like literally 5 years away from 5 years away? You know, and Missi's not necessarily 5 years away, but you get my point. Yeah, beyond.
Tell us how you feel.
I tell you, man.
He looks defeated. For those who are audio only listeners.
I mean, I won't say something because I want to be responsible as a citizen. I just put it this way, man. I mean, if they choose Missi that night, man, it might drive me to drink that night. Seriously, man. I'm just so over it. I'm like, really? This is what we're doing? This is what we're doing. All right, let me make it clear for folks who don't understand what I'm trying to get at. No more projects. I am over the projects. Okay? I am done with it. If you want to give charity, go in this case here, go the Make-A-Wish or the children or the sick kids hospital.
Hey, yeah, that's exactly what we do. We go to the children's hospital.
Right. Go there and make a donation for if you want to be charitable. Stop giving out all these draft picks to folks, in this case, to learn to play basketball. I am over it. I am over it. I am over it. If I got to see one more pick that in this case hasn't figured out how to dribble or shoot and is at 18, 19 years old, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself, man. I would have to ask questions like, are we just supposed to be in this case like some type of a training ground for everybody else in the NBA?
That's what it has become. Because if you think about it, it happened with O'Shea, it happened with a lot of these dudes, where you get these super raw dudes. By the time they become something, and this is why I keep trying to tell people, time is your limiting factor. By the time they, you know, become something, you now have to make a decision on their contract, right?
Look, man, right. And my thing is, honestly, we're like, I want us to be bad. I'm being straight about it. So I'm not losing any sleep about getting a big if we don't get a big. But I'm not getting a big for the sake of getting big if there's going to be guys like Carter or De Silva or even Collier, like actual skilled players that to pick a guy like this.
Yeah.
Hell no.
Now, you know, I'll defend him a bit. I actually, there's, like I said, well, I guess I did already, but like, you know, there's things that I like about his game. I will say though, on the downside, one of the first things I noticed was the processing speed is a little bit slow. So it's like almost like he'll set a pick and then him rolling, it's like, okay, now I have to roll, right? It's there's a split second where he's like thinking about what to do, and you don't have that at the NBA level. And that's
fantastic for the 0.5 offense, right? Yeah, you should be great.
But we were just
well,
in a space,
it's like precious, right? Sorry, JD.
we were just in a space earlier where somebody was saying that pick and roll is so easy to teach, man.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yikes! To me, there's certain guys like
I'm not touching that one.
Yeah, I'm just like honestly, I don't even want a project at 31 at this point. Like, I just want two professional players. That's what I want.
Yeah,
that's it. That's all I want. Two guys that can play offense and defense. That's it. I don't know why we try to make things so hard for ourselves and try to pick all these dudes that no one else in their right mind be picking a 19 pick.
Well, in 4 years, like, you know, Salon could be a top 4 pick. So, I mean,
there's about 8 million Frenchmen in this draft. We're gonna pick the rawest of the bunch, right?
I'm just asking because I was actually kind of curious about your slot thoughts because Coach and I talk, but I don't think I ever got your thoughts.
Ditto when it comes to him. Okay, how about that?
Okay.
Simple.
Before, yeah, actually, I'll just go to Coach. Coach, your thoughts? Not on Salon.
Yeah. So I like the defensive upside that Missi does have.
Mm,
I've seen some footage where he actually does guard on the perimeter fairly well.
yep.
There is shot blocking, rim protection potential. Reminds me a little bit of Koloko. I don't know if he'll be is that effective. That's too early to tell because he's so young. But there's defensive upside potential, I think. But like Beyond said, offensively, ooh, there's work that needs to be done in terms of like JD said, processing. And look, I'll just put it to you this way. If he was selected at 19, I'm not going to be too happy. If he's there at 31,
Different story.
now I'm like, okay, I might be willing to invest in him for some G League time and some time up at the big club as well. That's a little different. I could see that as a scenario. 19, like Beyond said, I think you're going to have enough talent there where you're going to be able to select from 3 or 4 guys who might who could fall to 19, and I'm just not sure about Missi in that
So
regards.
for argument's sake, say Tyler Smith is there at 31, and you have this guy. Who are you taking? Each of you.
Oh,
I would always go with a big wing.
Okay, so 2 Tyler Smiths. Coach.
Yeah.
Probably in the end, I would go with Smith because of his age too. Smith also was like 19 years old.
Yeah.
And just flat out more talented offensive player. There's things that Tyler that he can do already that will probably take me 5 years to finally get some rudimentary version of that. That's what you're gonna ask for. I'm sorry, man. I ain't got time to wait. I ain't that young. I ain't got that time to wait for all that, man.
Yeah, I think what we're trying to say is we're understanding that while it is a rebuild, we're trying to make sure that it's not a 6-year rebuild, but closer to the 3 or
I would say
or
this
2.
though. What Missi will do if he got selected at 19 is it will become very revealing about who's really running things in this case when it comes to personnel.
There you go.
And then we'll have a very clear understanding now. Oh, Darko, you only get your assistant to only this much. And then we can find out. Because one thing for sure, he ain't no Darko player, and we will find out real quick. It's like, oh, my man got his comfy little blanket again. It's like, oh, I missed you so much.
Yes.
Forget, we have 1 year of that shooting guard stuff, we're back to where we need to be. Yeah, we'll find out real quick.
So I actually have a like a Missi piece coming up later this week as well. And on my Raptors fit, I actually wrote there that he's probably not a good fit for Darko's offense right now, but like once he gets better in 4 years, we'll probably have a different coach and he'd be a perfect fit there, right?
That's different than what I thought you were going.
Missing. I'll just say that, JD. Okay. It may not just be the coach.
But to be fair to this young man, though, defensively, I see some upside rim protection potential. And even like when he's out on the perimeter, I do see we don't have a big who does that, what he can do. The closest one we have is Scotty to do that.
I think if you're gonna draft someone in this year's draft who's a big, you want ideally, and when I say big, I don't just mean like a big wing, but like a true big. Ideally, you want someone that has a different skill set than Pirtle.
Yeah, there's no motor issues with this guy. He's running all the time. He's ripping the rim down. But the problem is Beyond has said, you're going to have to wait a couple of years for this guy to develop. And I don't know if that skill set is what this team needs.
Right. So Oklahoma City get drafted there. Fantastic. Gets drafted to the Lakers. Even.
Would OKC rather do that or Filipowski?
If I were them,
Trade for Yak.
I would draft you at my choice. Let's put it that way.
Not touching that one.
They can have them, please. I don't know where they.
I just don't think that they would. That's the thing.
But to me, if they
like
Filipowski or Missi, I think they take Missi in this case. I would take that. But like, I think if the Lakers or Sixers who are just in front of us, I can see them drafting him. because they're not looking for anything right now.
But they kind of already have Jared Vanderbilt.
He's not going to be around for much longer, and he's much younger. Don't worry.
Okay.
I can see Nick Nurse liking Missi's skill set. Forget the him and Siakam's relationship. Nurse and Siakam's relationship. We already know that. But I'm just saying, Missi has a skill set that Nurse would like. That motor that constantly is going all the time. Nick Nurse is a defensive first coach. He'd love Missi.
True.
Yeah.
And if anything, like like the Dallas run, right? Like that shows that if you have a center that can be just really good at his like very tiny role, right? It adds a lot of value to the team, right? Like we've seen that from Lively.
It can, but you need someone who could take advantage of it, though.
Hold on 1 second. I just heard blasphemy on this broadcast. Hold on 1 second. You can compare.
I'm not comparing those two guys. I'm just saying, like somebody that would excel at their small role,
You think that in a short roll, and they gave the ball to BC at the free throw line, you think BC can figure out what the hell to do with that pass? Like Lively?
I'm gonna go with a no.
It's a no for sure right now. Yeah.
He thinks not.
Yes.
Right? Ain't no respect him on offense either, man. He'd be sitting there at the free throw line, and people say, yeah, have at it, kid. We'll play the passing lanes. Good luck.
Well, Darko's gonna give him the precious treatment, right? He's gonna give him the ball at the nail. I keep decide things,
I keep having flashbacks. People forget. People really forget, but like
VC is the offensive hub. There you go. Off the bench.
Oh man.
You just said the chilling words I never want to hear ever again.
I'll be like Louis Zatzman. What's Scotty got to do to get the hub instead of the chain?
You're giving me nightmares.
Me and Scotty doesn't.
Okay.
He's doing all the work. You can't get the hub.
Oh my gosh, Missi is the hub. Oh god, I can see it coming already. Don't do this to me. For the love of God,
well,
Miami,
they haven't talked
LA.
about changes in the system during the what do you call that, end of the season pressers, right?
Miami.
I didn't hear defense in that change.
Oh
What I will say is this is all this talk about raw players. We should probably talk about Khalil Ware and then get out of here. It's a change of pace. So I'll start off with Khalil Ware. We're gonna do a deeper dive, obviously, with Mouth of the North at some point soon. But the way that I look at him is he is probably the most versatile big that I've seen in this draft today. And that includes over Sarr. Now, I say it includes over Sarr because I do think Sarr has much higher potential, but he has to realize that potential. But today, I would say Khalil Ware would be, being able to do multiple things. I mean, Klingon is Klingon, but I think Ware is potentially more switchable. I think he has way more versatile offensive game. I think he has a little bit of passing chops, not that they relied on him to do that. I think he can be a two-way player, and I think he could definitely play without you worrying, like, how's the starting lineup going to go or whatever. And worst case scenario, you could probably start him next to Pirtle as well if it came down to it. JD, I don't know if you want to go first.
It's okay. I'll go first. Yeah, I mean, like, how long has it been since we had a good center, like Marc Gasol, right?
People will say that, anyways. But yeah,
I'm stepping on the yak hive right now.
Yeah, the reality is that to have that level of center who's truly a two-way center, and not only that, but people forget that Gasol will just fit into your system. Right, you didn't have to build around him. You didn't have to shift things around. You could have put him in either lineup with, it doesn't matter what's beside him, and he was going to fit. We haven't had that in a long time.
Yeah, and I think, like, looking at this draft, I think he's the best, like, modern big, right? If he figures it out, right? There are some, like, I guess there are some issues, or were some issues about him being lazy in Oregon or at Oregon, right? And I don't know, like to me, like I think I talked to you about this. I think it's just like he went up like just massively unprepared. Um, I think Grady Dick's team was like probably like the toughest team that they played at the AAU level. And I don't know, like I think this guy, like the talent, like you can't deny the talent in this kid. Um, and like we saw Jalen, was it Jalen Johnson like at the Atlanta, like he had the same rap, right? Like people were calling him this and that, right? And just the professional atmosphere, right? I think it changed things for him, and that's what I'm hoping for this kid because I think he's really talented. I think if he didn't like if you take out the Oregon year, I think he's a top, like he's a lottery pick. I think,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
the more that I've looked at him, the more that I like. So
Like there is an argument for him that he's probably gonna be like Christian Wood for the next few years, like top
I've heard that.
around,
I don't
right?
necessarily agree with that.
I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
I think he's learned his lesson, right? I think he's probably had a better inner circle right now that would help him, like be better at the next level. And like I said, like I'm hoping that if he lands, I don't know if if our team is that team, like developmentally, but I think he's one of those guys that if he ends up with the right developmental team, he can be like a steal in this draft.
Nobody gained more of their draft stock, I think, at the combine than Collier Ware. What some of the measurements that he did was of the best of any prospect that competed in the combine. I'm going to ask for you guys to give me a yes or no. Could we use some rim protection on this team?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Could we
It's one
use
of
a
those
lob
finger
threat?
ones where you put the
Yeah.
Yep.
Can we use a lob threat on this team?
Mhm.
Yep.
Could we use some more athleticism up front on this team?
Yep.
Could we use a stretch big on this team?
Yeah. And
He does a lot
and
of
a
these
stretch
things
big
that,
that can play on defense too.
yeah, I'm
Mhm.
saying he does a lot of these things, like JD said, kind of the modern big. And JD made a good point, and I had made to you guys offline. Guys with motor issues, yes, there's going to be a bit of concern. But when he went and played for Mike Woodson, who's been an NBA coach and had success at the NBA, by the way, who's a tough nosed coach, he said, "Yeah, never had an issue with his motor. I worry about him coming here. Get Darko ain't Mike Woodson. I'm not trying to throw disrespect in terms of X's and O's. That's not the point. Sometimes it's the personality. And
I'll be straight here.
if he goes to play for Eric Spolstra, that's different. That's a culture there.
Yeah.
Raptors, we ain't got one.
I'll be straight about the coach thing. I mean, Darko has he's earned the reputation of being more coddly, right? He's more of the carrot than the stick. Simply put, that works for some people. That works for some guys. It may not work for others. We'll see if it works for Khalil Ware if he gets drafted here. I think Khalil Ware developing the way that he did and in the manner that he did and having that reputation and then kind of coming out of it on the other side in a positive way, that might help him in and of itself, to be honest. Beyond.
Well, JD said it earlier. Spoke to Blake Murphy about this, and he kind of mentioned it as well too. He did actually straightforward mention it. Coach kind of said it in this case here by giving an illustration to it. This team lacks talent and it lacks skill. And if you get guys that could do multiple things to kind of close that gap as fast as possible, fantastic. I said from early on that pretty much where was my next big after. If we didn't get Sar, this is what we were talking about, we're going to have a top 5 pick. If Sar was on the board, and don't forget, this is before Klingon started moving up the charts. And even then, I still said I prefer Ware over Klingon for what all that coach mentioned. Well, Ware, with Klingon due to his size and his lack of speed, he's going to be stuck in a certain way. And I still think Klingon's going to be a good pro. but there's more possibility and more upside for Ware. Going back to JD's example about my man Lively in this case here, the comp is more likely in this case with this guy than it is with the previous guy, in my mind. Whereas, like, okay, a rookie can make a difference immediately. I'm not saying all of a sudden now these guys are going to be like a playoff team or nothing like that, but he can fill in a lot of gaps right now. And this team has a multitude of, that's what
there's certainly more pathways for success.
Right. I want a couple of guys like that. Whereas, like, I get 3, 4, 5 things off of one guy at my 19th pick and my 31st pick. That's all I want. That's it. Just players.
Now, I just want to make a comment about drafting philosophy, just quickly. Obviously, you want to draft the best player available, the best talent. I say yes, but I think you can walk and chew gum at the same time. I think you can also draft for need in this case as well. Why not go for the best talent and possibly the best fit?
Especially in a flat draft. I mean, if talent's gonna be.
Point. Is he the best? Is he the best fit on this team? Because you know who I think would be the best fit on this team. We're just going, I know positions.
Who?
I know who you would say.
Exactly, my man from Colorado. Because to me, as far as the insert plug and play right here, because you want a wing defender, voila. You want a guy who can go and play a little on the ball, voila. You want a guy knock down threes, voila. You want a guy who can get his own shot a little bit, voila. You want a guy who can defend a little bit on the wing and play multiple positions, voila. To me, that's the dude. I don't think he'll be there at 19. I'm not sure if either of them will be there at 19. But if I have a choice and all of them on the board, yes, De Silva is still my number one pick as my guy in this case here. But Ware would be a close second. Like, he would be up there. If you told me I go home and it's like I get one of the two of them and say Tyler Smith in this case is my 31st pick, man, I am pouring drinks for everybody in the bar that night, man.
That's funny.
The drink for me is on me that night when we sit down watch that.
True.
I'll have a drink for you. I'll be in Nova Scotia, but I'll have a drink for you guys.
We'll have one on your behalf.
I'll be at a pub.
Yeah, I mean that's really all I could think of in terms. I mean, we've covered a lot of different prospects, and we're going to continue to cover prospects, but we probably won't get through them all. JD, real quick question before we get out of here: a Bruce Brown trade, do you actually think it's likely, or do you think we're going to be not going that way? Because that, as Blake Murphy outlined, that kind of dictates your entire. I mean, that's the first real domino to fall.
Actually, I have like a counter question to that, right? Because the what do you call that? The trade that happens during draft night, it's a little bit different in terms of how contracts are being handled. Do you guys know? Does anybody know whether there's kind of like a cooling off period of trading the players that you're getting back? So, for example, if you trade Bruce Brown for some, like salary ballast, you have to wait for like an X amount of days. Because the free agency is coming up right away, right?
Yeah, I think you can kind of flip, because we've seen it before where you get a trade and then you, in quick succession, trade another guy. I think the key thing is it has to do with reporting with the team.
Okay.
But I mean, it's summer; they don't have to report for anything really.
Yeah, because if there's no cooling off period, I would say, like, my gut feeling is there's a good chance that he might get traded. But if there is a cooling off period, then they're probably gonna stay put and wait for the summer.
And do you think that that happens on, we'll call it draft nights?
Oh, the second night.
Probably the second night. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking too.
More and more that second night, I think, is going to give. There's going to be more opportunity for moves to happen.
Yeah, because I mean, even just in general, you see guys, it kind of slows down and whatnot. Is there any name we don't have to talk about, but is there any name that you think that you would want to see on? Are you a Bub Carlington guy? Do you want to see anyone on the 905 that we haven't talked about? I think PJ Hall is someone that you've mentioned. I don't know.
PJ Hall as a two-way guy, I really like him.
Yeah, maybe Justin Edwards falls. I don't think he will, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Hunter Salas, I like him. Trenton Flowers, those kind of guys.
Do you like Drusic?
Not as much.
Yeah.
I probably need to watch more tape on that guy.
The
Pacome, we
athleticism
talked about
is
Pacome, yeah. Mhm.
kind of okay, and it sounds like Daron Holmes will not be in not be available at the 30 whatever pick.
Mhm.
So yeah.
May hard to say with him. I've seen Holmes mocked down in the 50s at times. He
Well,
would be
he
interesting
shut
at
down
31.
he shut down his stuff because apparently
Yeah, you get a
Oh, there's a
promise.
promise.
he has a promise. So yeah. With that being said, it's been a full meal deal episode of Basketball Rewind. So if you're not getting your fill, then I don't know, rewatch some episodes that you haven't seen already. With that being said, check out JD's work. Some of his work, his most recent pieces will be down below. If you want to check out, I don't know, Beyond, he doesn't, write for this stuff, but if you want to check out his tweets or cuss him out, cuss him out. If you want to cuss me out, in the comment
Read on the
section down
comments.
below.
Yeah.
I may or may not respond, and no one seems to want to cuss Coach out.
No, I've gotten a few. It's okay.
Oh, I mean, hey, it's par for the course. But this has
It's
been
par for the
Basketball
course.
Rewind. Continue listening, and hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Take care and peace. Go this way because now the camera's different. So yeah.